have not reached the state of enlightenment, or one is not one has not awakened. It is as though one is asleep.
Okay, so can you hear me, Aishwarya?
Yes.
Good. All right, so I'm going to. So the verse that we were talking about is the next one in our list here. Just a moment here. Let me go back to the PowerPoint. Let's close that. Where did it go? Okay. All right. Just a moment here. So this is the verse. Okay, one moment here. Let's go to the slideshow from current slide. So the verse is this: Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yam hina vithayante te purusham purusharshapha samadukha sukham dhiram somrutattvaya kalpate. So this is verse 15. So we will spend our contemplation today on looking at what this is all about from chapter 2. Again, the entire understanding about energy runs through all of the scriptures, as we mentioned. In this case here, he's using the word affliction to not be afflicted by the changes that are going on. Right? We understand this idea, we already know about that. So yam hina vithayante te. What does that mean? That means he, or that indeed that individual who is not trembling, who is not afflicted, who doesn't get shaken. And then he is speaking of Purusham Purusharshaba, like the man bull, the leader of men, the one who has tremendous power and strength. So this teaching about energy is here, and interestingly enough, we can see clearly that the third part here of Sama Dukha Sukham Dhiram, the teaching of samatva, sameness, stability, among all of the pairs of opposites, pain and pleasure, dukh, sukh, dhiram is the one who is steady, one who is wise, one who can see through the polarity. And there's a big teaching here about the polarities, the pairs of opposites that we all go through, and the ability to pierce through them. That ability to pierce through, that vision to pierce through, is what is possible when one is in that state of this intense power. That's what this Purusham Purusharshava means right here. That one who is an individual who has that tremendous power built up to pierce through. See, generally what happens, let me just hit stop here generally what happens, we are drained of energy in both Sukh and Dukh. This is the problem. Even Sukh drains energy. You may not think so, but it does. Now you might wonder, how can that be? Well, let's use the example of a party. Aishwarya and Sham go to a very nice party. Maybe it's somebody's birthday party, and you're having fun. You've given some gifts. There's a nice birthday cake, and everyone's enjoying in a jolly mood. How can that be a drain of energy? It looks like it's really a very good elevation of energy, activation of energy. So let's look at that one in a scenario, and then you take another scenario like a funeral. Somebody has passed away, people are crying, and all this kind of thing is going on. That's called dukkha. So these are two examples, two opposites. There's a beautiful birthday party, a sweet 16 party for a good friend of yours, lots of gifts, maybe there's a banquet hall and there's a formal party, it's awesome stuff. Sukham, excellent. We really enjoy. And everybody said, what a party, how beautiful. And then on the other extreme, you have another scenario where the same people are there, somebody has passed away, and there's people are crying and dressed in black and this and that and all that other stuff that goes on. Sukha Dukha. What is the Gita saying? Again, this teaching of samatva. But then let's examine that further. Is it true that the sukham is draining energy just as the dukham is? How can that be? I think we can see that when people are crying and they're sad, there's clearly there's a drain of energy, clearly.
Yeah.
But what about in sukh? How can this be a drain of energy? What do you say about that? Before I say anything more, do you want to say something about this?
No, I mean, I don't know actually. Before you introduce the topic that both can drain energy, even I was under the impression that only sad moments drain energy, whereas happy moments will add to your energy. But I don't know, is it some incident that happens at the party or something?
Nothing happens at the party. That's it.
Oh, okay.
There's no dukh in there. Only sukh. Only everybody's enjoying, they're dancing, they're having there's no arguments with it. Nothing is there that is of any consequence in terms of dukham. It's just all, this birthday cake is as beautiful as it can be. The people are dressed up nicely with nice perfumes and all that kind of stuff. Even husbands and wives who were arguing before the party, now they're all of a sudden in very good mood and are affectionate, and all that fun stuff is going on, You never thought you'd hear something like this today. So let's see. So you can see that the same people are listening to, I don't know, maybe he might give this example, maybe not. But anyway, don't worry about that. How can this be a drain of energy? Can it even be a drain of energy?
Maybe if you're saying so.
Not because I'm saying so. We want to examine that carefully. Can you think of why it might be a drain of energy? A drain, like it's particularly a drain of that internal power. Could it be?
Is it because we'll keep craving that? Once you're back home from the party, you feel like, you want something like that again the next day.
So there's quite a bit to this. So let me share my thoughts about this.
Or your life is generally, you're not very happy with your life and you feel, oh wow, that's so nice.
That's an escapist
unhappiness
way.
With current state in some ways.
That could be, but even if that's not there, even if that, it's just only sukha. There's nothing wrong. It's not a reaction. It's not a. It's not. It's just sukham. I won't use the word ananda, but I'll use the word sukham. It's enjoyable, tremendous enjoyment. Can it be a drain of energy? And then does it? And if the answer is that yes, there is a drain of energy, we'll have to examine the answer. We have to look at it carefully. Does that mean one should not have sukham? One should not go for that. The last time we were talking, remember how I explained to you, we were talking about the fact that you want something, you go for it, but
it's okay as long as you're not unhappy with your current state.
Yes. But if the unhappiness of the current state comes, then one is that much away from the Atma, right? Okay, so now this same idea about the Atma is now expressed in a different way in the Gita. So I'll give you my thoughts about this, and you see what you think about it. So let's examine what happens when there is sukh. So first of all, the difference between sukh and ananda should be understood clearly. Ananda is a constant state. It doesn't fluctuate. Once the Atma is actually realized, there is Ananda that is undiluted and pure. Satchidananda. Atma is Satchidananda. Any sukh, as at the height of it, birthday party is just one example. We've been talking about Svarga Loka, all the way up to the Brahma Loka, where Brahmaji is said to exist. All of that has within it embedded some unhappiness is embedded if you go further in it. Meaning what? We already know that the happiness you get from the party is for maybe 2 hours. If that party goes on for 4 hours, if it goes on for 5 hours, people begin to leave. Eventually, if people are forced to stay there, eventually after 6, 7 hours, or maybe even before that, they will not be able to stand it anymore. This is the problem. Which is directly an indication that sukham is a reflection of ananda. It is not ananda. If it was ananda, it would be constant, continuous, uninterrupted. Atmanne vatmana tushta tasya prajna pratishtha. It'll come in the Gita later on in chapter 2. That one who is basking within the glory of the self. If one is basking within the Atma and has awakened into the Atma, then the Sukh is just a wave. Sukh is there, it is experienced, but it doesn't become a drain of energy. And that is the biggest difference here.
I still didn't get why it's a drain of energy. Okay, yes. Too much of it or party lasting too long, I understand.
Because it is energy has to focus itself for Sukham to be there. And that focusing of the energy is what produces the Sukh based on the environment and the context. See this point? So that is where one is again moving away from the Atma. Because the energy of the Atma, coming from the Atma, Gnan Shakti, Ichha Shakti, Kriya Shakti, the energies of the Atma are used to create the Sukha experience. And when that experience is created, quite a bit of energy is there. Now, does that mean that one should not even experience that? Is that what that means? No, of course not. That is not the case. It is also not the case that when there's dukkham, it is an experience within the body and the mind. But that experience isn't me, and I am different from that experience completely. That realization is the Atma. And that is where this great teaching here in the Gita of this line that says Purusham Purusharshabha. Why would he use that language? You see? That language is used because tremendous power is required to maintain the equanimity among Sukh and Dukh. Tremendous power in the sense not to damage the power that is used in creation of Sukh or Dukh. That power remains intact, and only a piece of it is used, if it is used at all, for Sukha and Dukkha, because one is inside Ananda. One is the Ananda. So when the Ananda is there, then one is actually this equanimity that is talked about here, Sama Dukkha Sukham Dhiram. This point here, all of that is a preparation. It's a preparatory state into the last part of the verse that says Somrutatvaya Kalpate. How beautiful. What a tremendous statement that is. My God. That it is a preparation for such a person is fit, ready for Amrut. Amrut meaning intense nectar, immortality. Does this make sense to you? It's very interesting. It does not mean to shun Dukh or Sukh. That's not what it means. Dukh and Sukh are going to be experienced. But the experience of it is within the body and the mind, with the realization that I am beyond this. So if the realization is there that I am beyond this experience, the experience will come in, but one is never caught in the experience. For somebody pinches me, somebody yells at me, or some physical, there's going to be pain. If a bone is broken, if an organ is not working properly in the body, whatever, people have psychological stuff that happens. Obviously, there's going to be difficulty with that. But that doesn't mean that one necessarily has to be stuck in that. So the way out of being stuck in sukh and dukh, which we'll get to more in just a moment, the way out is that word sama sukha dukham dhiram, the word sam and dhiram. Dhiram means steady. Don't get overwhelmed by either situation. You go to an extraordinary party and then you are just taken by that. But see what happens. You go to 3 parties like that, 4 parties like that, the intensity goes down. That means that the mind is getting conditioned further at that level of stimulation. That's a fact. That means, take it further, you'll see that the sukha diminishes. It is not that we're denying it. It is not that we're not trying to even be in that. But at the same time, there is a greater realization of great equanimity. And that's what generally doesn't happen. How many people do you know? Do you know anybody that can go to a funeral or to some very sad event and to another situation like a wedding or a party or a sweet 16 or wedding ceremony, I don't know, some great beautiful ceremony, and see them with equanimity? Not that they're the same. The Gita is not saying you treat them, there's another verse, samaloshtasma kanchanaha. That means on the one hand you have a diamond, or you have this kanchan, gold. On the other hand you have dust. And the enlightened being sees them as equal, as part of the earth. You see them as equal, but you don't treat them as equal, and you also recognize their difference. But they are seen from a higher vision as being equal. And this is the whole point, that as the vision goes up, which is what the yogic idea is, your vision expands, you see that this is part of a much bigger cycle. The same people who are enjoying the wedding and all that thing, at some point they'll be getting into conflicts and the ups and downs and all the mess that usually happens in people's lives. And then there's also, and one day they'll be gone also. So even this sukh that is there, if you try to expand it, it'll turn into dukh. That's the problem with it. And if that wasn't the problem with things like drugs and all that, whole world would be high on crack cocaine. That would be the only economy. Crack cocaine, heroin, ecstasy. There wouldn't be anything other than food, water, clothing, shelter, and drugs. That's it. If that was a way to open the door into infinite joy, obviously it's not. Obviously it gives you some experience, and then the crash occurs and damage occurs completely. So the beauty in this verse is a very powerful verse. Very, very, so much phenomenal truth is in this. My God, we could go into it for the rest of our life perhaps. That's how intense it is. When you think about that word, that you have so much power, first to recognize how much energy we have, how much power we have, and then to recognize I am the bull. Meaning what? I am that powerful being. I'm not this weak, limited being. You see? It's tremendous. See, for example, you as Aishwarya says, okay, I'm Aishwarya. But when you say that I am the goddess, my God, the whole mind is shaken by that idea. That's the idea. We don't think that way. But in Advaita Vedanta, that is a sadhana to say that you are the divine. Bhakti is there. Vishishta Advaita, Advaita, Bhakti. Obviously, you start with Bhakti. But there are stages. Not because of ego. We should be very careful in Advaita. Just the sense that only the goddess is there. That's a better way to say it, rather than even saying I'm the goddess. Because the problem is the ego will try to grab hold of that idea. And that doesn't work. It's a very dangerous thing in Advaita Vedanta, which people have gotten caught in many, many times. So it is better to say, just the goddess is there. Is within the mind, body, everywhere. Only she's there. Then the me, the individualized me with his agenda, who is getting torn into sukh and dukh, that is not there anymore. But what is the goddess? I still don't know. What is the divine? I still don't know. What is the Lalita Devi? I don't know. Whatever it is, Shiva, whatever you want to call it, Krishna, whatever it is, God. We don't know what, but the Gita is showing us a doorway to go through. There's a doorway there. Like in the Bible it says, knock and the door shall be opened. What a beautiful verse that is. Jesus taught that. You have to knock in the door. Ask and you shall receive. Meaning what? There's a door. The door is what? The equanimity, samatva, sama sukha, dukha, dhiram. Wow. Just imagine, just visualize it. Here's the sadhana to do in this. Whatever the changes are going on. I am totally balanced, steady. Now, what happens when the attractions occur? When you go to a party and you are dancing and this and that, all this stuff is going on. There's a lot of attraction in that. So, interestingly enough, if that is there, recognize the experience for what it is, and recognize that it has a beginning, a certain peak, a certain end, and if you can recognize that while keeping the realization that I am the Atma, then it becomes a Leela. Isi ko hi Leela kehte hai. This is called Leela. That's the difference between Leela and an individual who is bound by Rajogun. The Rajogun, the Rajas Gun, in a party, people are dancing and they'll be drinking some alcohol and this and that. If Sri Krishna himself is there and he's doing all of that, it is a Leela. We're doing it. We might think it's a Leela, but it's not a Leela yet. There's a beautiful verse in chapter 4. Janma karma chame divyam evam vyo veti tatvatah tektva deham chitva punarjamaneti mameti sorjuna. He says that Sri Krishna says, Janma karma, my manifestation, my every action, Janma karma chame divyam. This is a divine action. Evam yo veti tatvatah. That means who recognizes me as the tattva, as from a substance point of view, that I am this awakened being, I am that in that effulgent state, I am the God, actually. So that recognition of the form of Krishna as the divinity. You see, so janma karma chamedevam evam yobeti tatvatha tektva deham punarjanma. One who sees that divinity that way, there is no punarjanma. There is no reincarnation. What a statement that is. Now it's a whole different subject. It's not a different subject, but it is a very big subject about the Leela. I just want to bring that concept into our contemplation so you understand it very well. Leela is action without bondage. Any action. There's no bondage. There's no karmic effect at all. So if you are enjoying a beautiful piece of strawberry shortcake as a dessert at a Sweet 16 party, you see it, you enjoy it, but you are enjoying it through the realization of the Atma. That is a Leela. That is, you're performing Leela. That is a play. Leela means play. It is playing with the objects of the senses. And more than that, it is even the whole manifestation here is a Leela. Because we recognize that I am the Atma. Then every action of the body and the mind is a Leela. Because it is done without karmic effect, and it is done as a play. It is also done something called Chidvilas. Chidvilas means it is a play of consciousness. There's a wonderful book I may have mentioned to you before. Swami Muktanand has written that. It is called Chid Shakti Vilas. So it's worth reading this book. If you have time, you go through sometime. Yeah, it's called Chid Shakti Vilas. It's very beautiful. But in summary, I can tell you that is a state of realization that only that same power is manifesting in different ways. But it is a realization that comes from harnessing the powers within, not by suppression and not by indulgence. but by keeping all of the energies intact, and you become a powerhouse. That is why necessary to do mantra sadhana and to have good faith in gurus, enlightened gurus. Because when you start doing mantra sadhana, your energies begin to expand further. Like Om Aim Rim Klim Chamundai Viche, Navaran mantra, Maha mantra. And so when you go to the Meenakshi temple, you take a mala and you say Om Aim Rim Klim Chamundai Viche, Om Aim Rim Klim Chamundai Viche, and you understand the meaning behind it. Or if you're sitting in a havan, you listen to, and you just connect. The mantra it's actually the God. So the mantra is that same energy. This is what this is saying, that Purusham Purusharshava, that is all mantra only. All the mantras in our tradition are within this point that they are energy harnessers. So then what happens? You are able to enjoy the divine bliss. Now let me ask you a question. This is an interesting question now. We need like 5-6 hours to talk about this. This is very intense stuff actually. It's unbelievable things are there. I hope I'm not boring you.
No, not at all. No.
So it's very interesting. If you go and sit in a group of devotees, they're doing bhajan. Let's say they're doing bhajan. Maybe they're doing Krishna bhajan, or they're doing some Namah Shivaya bhajan, or whatever. Some beautiful mantras or stotras, or just bhajan, Ram Dhun, Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram, and beautiful sound and music, and just excellent orchestra is there, beautiful tabla or mridang and all that. It's a divine. The lamps are there, the beautiful images are there. Once you go in there, you just feel like, wow, this is just such a beautiful atmosphere.
Just turning on the light, continue.
Yes,
yeah.
Sure.
Sorry.
So you're in such an atmosphere, and compare that atmosphere to the other two, the funeral atmosphere and the extravagant party atmosphere, the Sweet 16 party, let's say. Look at the three atmospheres. What is the difference? So the difference is this. In the first two, the way that most human beings would be functioning, in the party atmosphere, which guna is predominant? Rajogun, Rajas is predominant, right? Enjoyment. In the other one, there is sadness, very much pain. It's almost like an inactivity. So it's not Rajas so much, it's more Tamas gun, but it's also pain and suffering and all of that. So it's there could be some ego. It could be some mixture of Rajas, Tamas, like in some weird way, like that kind of mixture is there. So that is that despondency and despair and grieving and all of that kind, because of attachments, So that's why. Now the third situation where you have devotees, 15-20 devotees sitting, they're all dressed.
Sattvic.
It's very sattvic, right? So it's sattvic, but it is still within Maya. That's what's interesting about this. You may not have thought that way. Even one who is doing bhajan, kirtan, and doing all of this thing, it is within Maya because it is sattvic. Sattva gun is also Maya. Now, you might be wondering, now what? If that's true, wait a minute, that sounds really confusing. How can bhajan, kirtan, and doing mantra sadhana and all that, how can that be Maya? See, if it is done out of sattva gun, which is fine, the sattva gun is actually a doorway into the Brahmic state. But most people are attached to the sattva gun also. So the way it is described in the scriptures and by the sages, the sattva gun is chains of gold. The rajogun is chains of iron, and the silver, and the tamogun is chains of iron. They're all chains. Somebody could be chained with a golden chain. It is also a chain. Why is it a golden chain? The answer is right in front of us. Before I share with you what I believe is the answer based on so many years of study, what do you think the answer is? Give you a chance to think about that a little bit. And the answer is actually in the Gita, as we have been exploring, but we'll have to kind of probe into it a little bit. See, if you're in a sattvic state, it is a chain of gold. It's a golden chain, beautiful, but one is still bound. Now we might be wondering, how is one bound? How can one be bound doing bhajan, kirtan and all satsang and all that thing? How can satsang be a bondage? How can that be? How can that be? The answer is like, satsang is not the bondage. The bondage is our sense of differentiation in the three situations. That's the bondage. The satsang is actually liberation. It is a doorway into liberation. But the sense that this is satsang, and the sense that, oh, I'm so sad here. The same person is sad in the funeral, crying and sobbing. And the same person is dancing and jolly and all that kind of fun stuff. There you can see the three gunas. And that's the bondage. The bondage is of the three gunas, not the environment. In the enlightened state, if one is in a funeral or in the smashan or in any situation, the divinity of the Atma is always shining. That is, the realization of the Atma is the aim of satsang. But I'll put that in even a broader sense. If one is really trying to realize the Atma, you can realize it also in the party, and you can also realize it in the funeral home by recognizing the flow of energy in all three circumstances. What do you say about this?
Interesting. Yeah. Two new ideas you have introduced. One is that soup can also be energy draining, and that satsang also is a form of Maya. What is Maya?
Which
can be
within sattva gun. So now, how does satsang not be Maya, or even the party, or even the funeral? How can that not be? Because one has a vision that is piercing through the guna. So in the case of satsanga, Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, and then Katha and Bhajan Kirtan, when that is going on, there's quite a bit going on. The gunas are moving through the person at that time. Sometimes some rajasic thought comes, sattvic thought comes, the mind changes a bit. So many things happen. So satsanga, its attempt is to absorb the divinity. How can I say this? Sang means contact with, but it's like a absorption. So meaning what? If I have 20 roses and I'm just holding them in my hand, for like 3-4 hours and moving them around, and then if I drop them all and I smell my hand, I have the sang of the roses. The flavor has the scent has penetrated into my skin. Isn't it called? That is called sang. Yeah. But after some point that will go.
Yeah.
But that's different from my being absorbed inside the rose permanently. When satsanga is done as a sadhana in sattva gun, it is going to come and go. But there is a state that occurs when there is continuous satsang. So even if you are in the funeral home, you're at a party, or you're at a dance, or you're anywhere, South Pole, North Pole, Mars, outside the galaxy, Andromeda galaxy, it doesn't make any difference. Under the sea, anywhere. Your continuous connection in satsanga and continuous contemplation on the truths and bhajan and kirtan, like a fish that stays in a pond. Like Ramakrishna Paramahansa revolving around the Devi. Just like when we do the pradikshana in the temple. Why do we do the pradikshana clockwise? Because we are attempting to completely revolve through the 24-hour cycle in the circadian rhythm in God consciousness. That is divine satsang. So when you start approaching that state, the sattva gun according to Srimad Bhagavatam, will say Sattvam Yat Brahma Darshanam. That Sattva gun becomes now it's taken at such a level, it becomes Shuddha Sattva. That there's no mixture of the other gunas within the Sattva gun at all. It is called Shuddha Sattva. And in that Shuddha Sattva, the ego of the Shuddha Sattva gets dissolved. And as soon as the ego of the Shuddha Sattva gets dissolved, immediately the Brahma Vidya, the Brahmic realization occurs. Are we together on this point?
Yeah.
So now you might be wondering, what is the ego of the Shuddha Sattva gun? I'll give you an example. Let's just say you've got an individual who has started the Satsanga and is studying Vedanta and trying to live a very moral and ethical life and spiritual life and goes to sages and, Tad Viddhi, Pranipatena, Pariprashtena are surrounded by the purified atmosphere all the time, different ashrams, doing all that thing. And then eventually gets into Shuddha Sattva, that the mind is just completely, overrun by the Shuddha Sattva gun. So then the thought wave comes, the I comes. There's a detection of the Shuddha Sattva gun that I am this. And that itself is the Maya.
That ego you're saying, yeah.
But it's not like your regular ego. This is not like that. Well, this is really very interesting. This goes even further. So that differentiation that says I am in the Sattva gun, and I can see that I am, my mind is so evolved and this and that, and others who are not like that, I can see immediately the difference. See, everybody else seems much lower. And even the person is not necessarily saying anything negative about, nothing like that is there. There's just the sense of difference.
Yeah.
That sense of difference is Maya. So the Shuddha Sattva gun, that sense of difference comes. Now to detect that and to dissolve that, and now it goes further. When one actually realizes the liberated state, so Shuddha Sattva gun goes further into Jivan Mukti, living liberation. One is unclutched from the Maya. But even it's called Jivan Mukti and Videhi Mukti. There's two kinds of Muktis there too. So Jivan Mukti is lower than Videhi Mukti. In Jivan Mukti is what one is freed from the bondage of the Sattva gun. But while one is liberated, one still has the sense that there is this liberated state and there's others who are not liberated. One still sees that difference. There's no negative emotion. None of that thing is ever there in that. Just that sense of difference, that one is above, one is below, one is not as far, just even that remains. That is called Jivan Mukti. But Videhi Mukti is a state where that is not the case. It is a state where the Atma, one's realization that I am the Atma, and everything has the same Atma, the same realization, the same being is there. Whatever they might be doing, it could be anybody, it could be anyone, it could be any plant, animal. There's a beautiful verse in the Gita. Vidya vinay sampanne brahmane gabihastini shuni chaiva shupake cha panditaha samadarshinaha. Wow. He sees an elephant, a cow, an outcast, a dog eater, a criminal, whatever. He sees the same luminous being everywhere. Another way of putting it, he sees only himself in them. Or he sees God in them. This is beyond satsang. Way beyond. What do you say? It's most people are stuck in the sattvic effect of satsang. Chains of gold. Life is good. They're doing holy things, rituals, going to Kumbh Melas, meeting with saints, doing everything, whatever they might be doing. But this is where the Bhagavad Gita is teaching. My God, what a level it speaks from. It is a Brahma Vidya Shastra. Sukh and Dukh. Yes, is there enjoyment in Bhajan Kirtan? You can get high on Bhajan Kirtan too. And it's a good high. It's good for you. Nothing wrong. When you come to my place here sometime, I've got everything set up here. You just see the small office here, but it's a beautiful place set up. All these ideas are presented here. Everything. When the time comes, we'll be presenting it and having groups and all that. But we're doing online also. This whole place is set up for satsang, but it's more than that. It's set up for realization. This whole place we have here. And and this is the whole point. I have books here how God changes the brain. Does the brain change when you are doing bhajan kirtan? Of course it does. Does it change for the better? Of course it does. But there are still.
But temporarily, no?
Right. But even that gives you a glimpse. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
But then that glimpse it inspires you to go beyond, to go further. Some of the exercises which I asked you to do about going to Costco or walking in the gardens or walking on the nature, those exercises are done to try to glimpse the end point.
Give you a glimpse, yeah.
Glimpse of that final state. If that final state is there, the whole life is a leela. You cannot, and at the same time, the practical aspects are there. You recognize how things are flowing. You recognize the relative existence and the absolute. And the harmony between the two. To relatively whatever has to be done. Just in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a verse actually. It should not be misunderstood, of course. But in Bhagavad Gita, there's a verse in one of the chapters that says, those who are attached to the world, with the worldly activities running. He says, Sri Krishna says, do not disturb them. They're small-minded, leave them alone. Because they're not ready yet. Of course, somebody comes in your contact, you have a nice conversation, they want to be inquisitive about these things, or they have some spark of awakening out of this bondage of Maya. That's a very big thing. It doesn't happen. You and I having this conversation. My God, how is that even possible? That is a blessing of the Mahashakti. For me, for this person, I'm sure you are finding some interesting things and all that. That's all okay.
For me.
But it's a blessing that is just there. Otherwise, this level of conversation, who is going to have this level of conversation? With whom, actually? So that is a blessing for us so that we can evolve into the truth. And as we evolve further, those who come in contact with us are going to be touched by that. We don't have to do anything for that. So that is a very beautiful way of living, where one is living as a Jivan Mukta. That is our goal. Jivan Mukta and the Videhi Mukta is even a little bit further. We get to that Jivan Mukta state. First we have to get to a Sattvic state, then the Shuddha Sattvic state, and then from there to a Jivan Mukta state. So the Rajogun, Tamogun are there. Now the other thing to keep in mind is that you have to be careful about this pulling back and forth within the gunas. If you say that, yes, you're a married woman and you're going to have intimacy with your husband and other worldly things are there, so you recognize that is a play of the gunas. I'm different from that all the time. So that awareness that I'm different from that also comes, even though one is interacting with the three gunas. There's verses in the Gita about that too. That the gunas, the qualities are playing within themselves. There's verses like this. So we'll get to those explanations. I'm just pointing that out right now, that this should not be misunderstood as, well, let's just live only a sattvic life and just forget about everything. And just go into a hermit or turn the house into an ashram and everybody live like a sannyasi and that'll be the end of it. And then we'll all get moksha. It probably will not get moksha or anything like that by doing those things. And the reason is very simple. Unless everybody really wants only that, it's not gonna work. There's no, you say, okay, don't watch TV, don't do anything, only have the scriptures, only have the bhajan, kirtan, cut relation with everybody and everything. Only thing that happens in that is that the mind becomes more and more dull. Nothing else happens in that. And because of the desires. Now, yes, if one is not having any other desire except that, then why they're even living a worldly life? They live by themselves and roam around or whatever they're doing. It's okay. But that approach doesn't work for most people. Hardly anybody. For a few people who are trying to do that, and even then, they're still living in the world. How can you avoid the world? The question is how much interaction to have with the world. That is viveka. That is the discriminative ability within us to determine how much interaction, what level of interaction, and what is the interaction doing for me? And is it taking me further towards higher consciousness, or is it binding me within the gunas of Maya? That is the question each person needs to genuinely ask through the experiences of the world.
Yeah.
So if going to the Sweet 16 party is a great bondage, or it can become into like a massive bondage that you are just thinking about that and you want to just be in that kind of thing, and then you keep going, and then eventually saturation happens, then you want some better party, you want something more, something this, something that. That becomes a bondage of the Rajogun. And then one gets torn within Rajogun, engulfed by Rajogun. So we don't want that. We said, who wants to be engulfed by Rajogun? How ridiculous is that? Rajogun is an expression of Maya. And in fact, it exists so that we can go beyond it. As I mentioned to you last time, why do these things exist anyway? For example, why is thirst there? Thirst for water, like I have a water bottle here. Well, why am I thirsty? So my thirst is there because the body needs water. But if thirst was not there, what is the use of the water? So water exists because there's thirst. So and then because there's thirst, there's the experience of the thirst being quenched. And then when the thirst is quenched, then that is fulfills the demands of the body and the mind, and life. So similarly, everything that happens in Maya is not the problem in spiritual realization. At all. Not at all. Maya is not the problem at all. Maya, in fact, is the solution. Meaning what? That three gunas that are playing, when we recognize them as they are, we show the adequate due and respect for them, see them for what they are, see the energy in them, and give and take all of that energy, give it back to God.
Yeah.
And that is how Maya becomes the cause of liberation. When we give the energy within Maya back to God. If we're holding on to it, it is a bondage through our own ego.
Give it back to God means what? Sorry.
Good question. Good question. Let me give you a couple of examples. You know how we do the archana in the temple, right? We have to take 2 apples, 1 banana, 1 apple, and all that. And then they say, take your sankalpam and all that with a nice accent and all that thing. I said, stop saying say make your sankalpam. It's like if you say take, that means you just take it back and go back with it. I'm just kidding. So it's really a lot of comedy actually. But the interesting part about this is that when you are doing the archana, the fruits that you offer to the Paramatma, to the deity, after doing the puja, you get it back. That is exactly what this means. That the fruit, if a person eats the fruit, I'm just hungry, I'm eating the fruit.
Oh, like that.
Okay? But now I'm offering it to God, the energy within the fruit, and doing the Ashtottara Namavali, Prasam Pratna, whatever I'm doing, is offered. And then now, what name do we call it? We say this is
Prasadam. Or whatever, yeah.
And we are very careful with it. We always look at it in a holy way, sanctified way. And when we eat that, we do not care about its taste or anything. It has been touched by the divine. It is for our benefit. But it's a laddu, or it's a food or rice or any XYZ. You go to a satsang or a langar or any of those things, and it doesn't matter. They have all the food laid out. Everything is taken by nobody is going to shout at it or disrespect it or say this is terrible. I have never seen that, in all my life. Anywhere. Not one person has ever made a negative comment about the food. They don't make negative comments about the food in the mandirs and the prasadam. I wonder what happens at home. This is the difference.
So give it to God means, okay, in that sense you're saying.
You see? So that you're still going to enjoy the ladu. You're still going to enjoy the rasam or the dahi rice or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It could be anything that you're offering. But once you offer it to the Lord, then the whole the vibration, the whole experience is different. It is a holy. It is where Sri Krishna says, patram pushpam phalam toyam. You offer me a leaf, a fruit, with love. A leaf. Think about that. A leaf can be offered to God, and that is enough. But it's the feeling inside, the bhav inside, that is everything, and the shraddha, the faith inside. So once that is, then you give it back. So you're giving what you're giving, the energy that is inside Maya, the rajogun that says, I want to eat that, I'm so hungry. So let's just go to a really fantastic 5-star restaurant and have a 7-course meal and all that. You can. Why not? But offer everything to God first. And then you take in, it's nirguna. So then you still enjoy it. But there's a difference, that there's something different that happens. It's not done just with that egotistical sense. Even in the Christian tradition, they say, say grace and all that. All that stuff that is done in every tradition is done in some way. Why is that? So that we come out of the ego space, we come out of that space where energy is just being funneled through the 3 gunas. Now the 3 gunas have actually synced with God. So meaning what has happened, the same food is there, but because you have offered it to God, okay, now your enjoyment that is still there, it has a different connection. It doesn't bind you. This is the difference. The sattvagun, rajagun, tamagun, they don't bind anymore. So I think you might be knowing, when we do all these archanas and pujas and mantra sadhana, there's always a Shama Prarthana, and then there's at the very end, like in the Durga mantras, all of Om Shri Durga Arpanamastu, that everything we have done, our sadhana, we're offering everything to you. We don't know anything. We have made so many mistakes. Our mind has gone in so many places. Please forgive us. What do we're like a child. So that mindset, that mentality, that feeling, once that comes, that is only, then the person is overrun by divinity. It's just ecstasy is there. There's just truth, and everything is given to the devotee. When the devotee is no longer, how can I say this? When the devotee is only looking to please God, this is a bhakta, So in such a state, all the energies come together, the 3 gunas and their functioning begins to change. All of that happens, and the difference between the ego and that divinity shows up. You can see it, so you can see it. So once that difference comes up, now Maya becomes the cause of liberation. We always think of Maya as something negative, bad, and bondage and all that. But that's not the case. Sri Krishna says, Daivi Esha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratya Mam Evaya Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. That the Maya is Daivi Maya. Why it is Daivi? Daivi means divine. It's a divinity. What is it? What is so divine about getting angry at somebody? And what is so divine about sexuality and orgasmic experiences, and or what is so divine about egoism or greed or hatred, the negative and the positive emotion? How can that be divine? That's a common question. That's what the Sri Krishna is saying, that the whole Maya is divine. It's divine because it is a raw power that is expressing in this way. Once you recognize that raw power and you give it back to God, that's what he says. Mam evaya prapadyante. You come to me and you give it to me. You stay at my feet, and the Maya will not touch you. Because you're coming to the source from where the Maya comes. So that the Maya is farther away. You come to the Paramatma, there is no Maya. This is the whole point. Where God exists, Maya is not there. But the further we move away from God, Maya shows up. Amazing.
Understand.
Amazing,
Very
amazing.
beautiful.
Sounds good? So let's pick it up. I don't know, what thoughts you have about all of
Excellent. No. Very, very, very good. Lots to think about. In fact, this week, we're going to attend a party also.
Beautiful. So that's
One of my
excellent.
friends is one of my friends' baby shower. She's
Yes.
going to deliver next month,
Very
so there's
nice.
a party on Saturday. But
Exactly,
I will.
and it's a matter of you see baby, you see the life and death cycle. You see, you keep a broader. Obviously, you're not going to be telling her, well, it was probably your grandmom or great grandmom has come back again because of attachments. That's not the conversation you're going to have. This is something that you keep inside of you. See, this is very interesting. You have it, and you're in it, but it's a leela. It's you're really in it. That's why they say Ras Leela. The Ras Leela there's this in Srimad Bhagavatam. 10th skanda, 10th chapter, 10th canto, and it's called Ras Panchadhyay. Yeah, I'll show you the book. I'll show it to you sometime. I can show you online also. It's 5 chapters of the Ras, of the Sri Krishna and the gopis. And it is called Ras Leela. It is called Ras Leela because Sri Krishna is playing. It's a divinity. It is not done out of lust or out of anything like that. It is a divine exchange that is going on. That is called Ras Leela. You see, and then of course now people are doing garbas and all. They're doing all these different things. Whatever they might be doing, that's a whole different matter. Whether that is Ras Leela or not, we don't know about that. But that's a whole. But that's the actual. So the dance and the music and sound and all this thing is all beautiful. If it's so much beauty and joy in that, it is a leela. If it's a divine play. Now, what's the difference between divine play and being caught in the gunas? There's a big difference. You see? So it's like when you have a beautiful flower, a rose flower, you say, oh, how tremendous it is, how beautiful, how it smells so nice. It's like a Rajogun experience, kind of. It's a very sensory experience, even Sattvic experience, let's say. But you take the same flower and you remember, okay, let's put it this way, you remember Sham, let's say, or he remembers you. So that's a very good husband-wife connection, like a Rajogun, little bit, maybe some Sattvagun. But then he says, oh no, I'm offering it to the goddess within my wife. Immediately that is Nirgun. Like Ramakrishna Paramans, he saw his wife as the Devi. End of story. That's it, But can you imagine a husband looking at his wife in this way? I mean, when people are attracted to each other, they're getting married and all that. Do you know anybody who says, you know what? Well, that's a very interesting and attractive girl. I cannot wait to transform my mind to start observing her like as a goddess and all that thing. Ramakrishna Paramans was probably doing that, or he was beyond that already. But most of the people are not going to be. But see, that's the difference between Maya versus it's the same. Marriage is there, but the divinity between the couple. That's the most extraordinary thing, which we talked about before.
Who was the person whose video you showed?
Oh, that was one of the saints. His name is Swami Nikhilananda. And in fact, I'll send you the link. There's a lot of videos on the Bhagavad Gita, thousands of them. Yeah. I mean, there's like an ocean of stuff that's just on the internet, and we'll kind of go through some of that. So there's some really interesting ideas about pairs of opposites and all that. But nonetheless, we want to have our own contemplation to see what it all means, and it's good for me to kind of really think about some of this and present it in different ways. And at the same time, we are trying to realize all of this. I mean, it's not something which is just theories and ideas. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. Look, people sitting in temples and all that stuff is beautiful, very good satsang and all that. But actual realization is definitely beyond all that. You could be anywhere. This is my whole point. Or this is the point. Be anywhere. Yeah. In any situation, then the realization is actually there. Yeah. Then of course, as a day-to-day exist, we go to temples, we do darshan, we want to be in sattvic atmospheres, we want to stay away from all the negative things. That's all true. But actual realization is it's leaps beyond that.
Listen. Yeah.
So let's do the prasthana.
Thank you, very nice.
Oh, it's beautiful. So karachanagatam va, kayajam karmajam va, shranajam va, manasam va paradam, vitam va, sarvame tachamasva. Jai Jai Karunabde Shri Mahadeva Shambho Om Divilingaya Namaha Urdvalingaya Namaha Anandalingaya Namaha Dvadash Jyotirlingaya Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya. Om Atmalingaya Namaha. Om Paramatmalingaya Namaha. Om Shri Uma Maheshwaraya Namo Namaha. Om Shri Radha Krishnaya Namo Namaha. Om Namah Parvati Pate Har Har Mahadeva Har. Om Hari Om. There we go. What a blessing.
Thank you.
Amazing stuff. Okay, have fun. See, have fun at the party.
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay. It's called the Divine Party. There you go. So there you go.
Okay.
Have fun. Bye-bye.
Thank you.